In a matter of hours, the sky transforms into a storm of fire and molten metal. An invisible wave of energy sweeps the globe, and forests millions of years old lie down like grass. The air fills with falling rocks, still incandescent, turning night into a hellish day. The surface temperature skyrockets beyond 1,000 degrees, and the ground itself begins to burn. Entire continents unite in a sea of flames that burns for days. The oceans, once a source of life, boil in their basins, raising walls of steam that hide the sun. Nothing larger than a rat survives in the open. And then the chaos ceases. The fire goes out. The tremors stop. The roar of a planet in agony gives way to a deep and frightening silence. A silence the Earth had not heard for 160 million years, covering everything, from the mountaintops to the bottom of the sea. The age of the dinosaurs was over. The world as it existed was completely annihilated. But when destruction is total, it opens a new space. What happens after the world ends? The first year is a long, frozen twilight. The dust from the global ashes forms an impenetrable veil in the upper atmosphere, and the sun becomes just a rumor, a memory of warmth. The days merge with the nights in an endless gray penumbra. The notion of time is lost, for there is no dawn or dusk to mark it. It is a cold that comes not from the air but from the ground itself, a profound absence of energy that sucks the warmth from everything that remains. The air has a taste of metal and smoke, heavy in the lungs as if it were a liquid. And when the rain falls, which it does without end, it does not bring life. Each drop is a dose of poison, an acid rain that burns the dead leaves and slowly dissolves the rocks. The water gathers in dark, still pools, releasing a chemical smell of sulfur. Nothing new dares to grow in this poisoned soil. What survived the fire now slowly rots beneath the corrosive rain. The silence is the most disturbing feature. There is no howl of the wind, only the heavy movement of a dense air. There is no call of birds or the rustling of animals in the undergrowth. The only sounds are the occasional snap of a dead branch breaking under its own weight, or the soft, constant drumming of the toxic rain on a world of debris. It is a silence that feels wrong, the sound of a planet that has stopped breathing. The trees that did not burn are now gray skeletons, their bark peeling off in long strips. The ground is covered by a thin layer of black dust that seeps into every crack, a shroud covering a continental cemetery. The web of life built over millions of years was not just broken, it was pulverized. On the surface, death seems to have won. The planet is a monument to the end. But this is only part of the story. Beneath the earth, in dark tunnels and at the bottom of the poisoned oceans, life wages a silent war for existence. Out of sight, it has not surrendered. It is just waiting. The great web of life has been undone. What remains is not a food chain, but fragments of existence scattered in the darkness. The mammals that inherited the planet are fist-sized creatures, beings that live a life of shadows in burrows dug deep into the frozen earth. They move in the dark, guided by smell and memory, in a relentless search for any source of energy. Beetle larvae, fibrous roots that taste of earth, the pale fungus that grows on rotting wood. Every calorie is a victory in the silent war against oblivion. On the surface, the last dinosaurs survive. They are not the titans that ruled the world, but small ground birds whose ancestors learned to live on the ground. On a planet with no trees to perch on, flight has become useless. Now they scratch at the ashes with nimble feet, searching for seeds that withstood the fire, a minuscule inheritance from a world that is no more. In the swamps, the masters of patience wait. Crocodiles, with a lineage that was already ancient when the dinosaurs appeared, float in the icy mud. Their bodies enter a state of suspended animation, their metabolism almost stopping completely. Their hearts beat only a few times a minute, a lesson in energy conservation in a bankrupt world. They do not fight the new world, they simply wait for it to pass. Each of these survivors represents a different strategy to cheat extinction. Speed, patience, size, simplicity. Which of them do you believe is the most ingenious? Leave your opinion in the comments, as your perspective is part of this story. This knowledge, this journey through the resilience of life, is not for everyone. It is for those who seek to understand the forces that shape us. Only the chosen ones will click the red button to subscribe and ensure they don't miss what comes next. These are the heirs of a broken world. They survived the fire, but now they face a slower, more relentless enemy, a planet that is becoming uninhabitable. Each day is a losing battle against the cold and the hunger. For life to have any chance, it is not enough for them to endure. The planet itself must change, and time is running out. Time loses its meaning in a sunless world. Months turn into nameless years, marked only by the slow, incessant fall of ash. The planet is trapped in a state of suspension, a perpetual and frigid twilight, where the only change is the deepening of the silence and the cold. The life that hides beneath the earth and in the depths of the sea has no way of knowing if the night will last another day or another 1,000 years. Hope, like the light, seems to have been extinguished, but in the oppressive silence of the upper atmosphere, something begins to change. Grain by grain, the curtain of dust that suffocates the planet begins to thin. The heavier particles fell long ago, and now the finer ones begin their slow descent, clearing the sky at an imperceptible pace. It is not a storm that clears the air, but the patient and relentless force of gravity. And then, it happens. A single photon, then another and another, manage to pierce the haze. For the first time in years, a pale, ghostly ray of sunlight touches the Earth's surface. It is not a light that warms, but a light that illuminates. It reveals a world of ash and ice, a gray and lifeless desert. But this light is more than just energy. It is a sign. The planet's response is not biological, not yet. It is physical. Where the light touches the ice, a subtle change in temperature is enough to create a fracture. A crack echoes in the stillness, the first new sound in ages. Water, imprisoned in ice, begins to move. The chemistry of the air, stagnant for so long, begins to react to this new energy. For the first time since the impact, the planet seems to breathe. After so long in darkness and poison, is there still anything capable of using this light? Or has the spark of life been extinguished forever, leaving behind a sterile world? The light is the trigger. In the ash and toxic mud, spores and seeds that endured the long night in a state of dormancy sense the change. They are programmed for this, to wait for this exact signal. The response will not come with a roar, but with a sprout. In the depths of the poison soil, life has heard the call, and the first wave of the reconquest is about to emerge from the ashes. The world is still a graveyard of giants. Skeletons of trees that survived the cold rise up against a gray sky, with brittle branches and roots rotting in the soot. The soil has forgotten what it means to nurture life. It is a sterile layer of ash and toxic chemicals, unable to sustain anything more complex than a microbe. But in the cracks of this desolation, an impossible color emerges, a single green dot pushing the black ash aside. It's a fern. Ferns are an ancient life form, masters of survival. They don't depend on complex seeds, which need ideal conditions to germinate. Instead, they reproduce by spores, microscopic and almost indestructible particles that can travel thousands of kilometers in the air. During the nuclear winter, these spores waited, dormant in the frozen dirt. And, crucially, ferns do not need the full sunlight that fed the ancient forests. They evolved to thrive in the penumbra, in the shade of larger trees. In a world of dim light, they are not just surviving, they are in their element. What begins as a sprout becomes a legion. In a few years, what would deserts of ash transform into oceans of ferns? Scientists call this global event the Fern Spike, a phenomenon recorded in the rock layer that marks the extinction boundary. In less than 1,000 years, a geological blink of an eye, ferns become the dominant plant life form on over 70% of the planet's land surface. They don't just cover the ground, they transform it. Their roots bind the ash, preventing the acid rain from washing it away. For the first time in years, photosynthesis returns on a global scale, releasing oxygen and slowly healing the poisoned atmosphere. This new green world offers something that has not existed for a long time: food and shelter. The planet has ceased to be a tomb to become a larder. And for the survivors who hid in the darkness, the signal is clear. The time for hiding is over. The age of reclaiming the world is about to begin. The mammals, creatures no larger than a man's hand, emerge from their burrows with a caution etched in their genes. Their eyes, enormous and black, are perfect lenses for a world without light. But now, under a pale sun, they blink, disoriented. They move in short, nervous bursts through the new jungle of ferns, always just inches from the safety of a hole in the ground. They dig in the soft ash in search of insects and roots, the only fuels available in this new engine of life. They live fast, reproduce fast, and die fast, a strategy of numbers in a world where safety is still an illusion. On the fern plains, the heirs of a lost empire hop across the ground. The birds, dinosaurs in miniature, have adapted to a life close to the ground. The sky, once patrolled by winged reptiles the size of small aircraft, is now a vast, silent desert. Flight, once a symbol of dominance, has become a secondary tool for escaping danger, not for hunting. They are living proof that to survive an apocalypse, sometimes you must forget who you were. As the land learns to live again, an even deeper resurrection is happening beneath the waves. Sunlight, filtered and weak, reaches the surface waters for the first time in years. In response, the microscopic plankton, which survived adrift in the abyssal darkness, blooms in an explosion of green. They are microscopic factories of life, the foundation upon which all marine complexity will be rebuilt. The ocean's recovery will not be measured in years, but in millennia. But the engine has been started again. The land and the sea are being repopulated, but this is not a peaceful garden. It is an open frontier, a blank canvas for evolution. The thrones left vacant by the tyrannosaurs and the mosasaurs are empty. A power vacuum hangs over every continent and every ocean. Everywhere, life moves to fill the space, to test the limits. Survival was the first test. Now the second begins, the race for power. In a world without monsters, the survivors will have to become the new monsters. And one group in particular is about to accept this challenge in a way that will change the planet forever. Life's response to the void is not slow or hesitant. It is an explosion. In a geological blink of an eye, the world transforms again. 100,000 years after the impact, the number of mammal species on the planet doubles. 300,000 years later, the Earth is already home to more types of mammals than at any time during the peak of the dinosaur age. Life isn't just filling the gaps, it is overflowing. But the most radical change is not in variety, but in scale. For 700,000 years, the mammals, which survived weighing an average of half a kilogram, begin an evolutionary arms race. With the great predators gone and a world of plants to consume, size becomes the new frontier. In 700,000 years, the average mammal goes from half a kilogram to 50 kilograms. It's a 100-fold increase in body mass. The creature that once lived in hiding, the size of a squirrel, now has the size and confidence of a wolf. How was this possible? The world was empty. The roles of large herbivore, of top predator, were vacant. For the first time in over 150 million years, being large wasn't a risk, but an opportunity. Life, freed from the old rules, explores new forms, new sizes, new ways of existing. This isn't just recovery. It is a complete reinvention, driven by the opportunity born from catastrophe. These new mammals, fast and powerful, are just the beginning. They are the prototypes. In their genetic code, they carry the blueprint for even larger giants, for mammoths that will make the earth tremble, and for whales that will become the largest animals that have ever lived. The age of mammals was not just beginning, it was heralding a new kind of dominion over the planet. But what does this meteoric rise teach us about the cycle of power, destruction, and creation? The planet never returns to what it was. Much has been lost forever. What follows is not a recovery, but a reinvention, a simpler, more resilient world, built upon the bones of the old. Life does not fill the same spaces in the same way. It creates new spaces, new rules, new hierarchies. It is a planet reborn from fire and ice. The age of giants is over. The planet's new rulers were not shaped by brute force, but by silent endurance. They did not win by dominating, but by enduring. They are proof that, in the grand history of life, the most important trait is not power, but patience. The ability to hide in the darkness, to wait for the return of the light, and to seize the opportunity when the entire world is empty. We saw a world reduced to ash and poison, a place where hope itself seemed a geological impossibility. We saw the light return, faint and hesitant, and we witnessed life's stubborn response, first with the creeping green of ferns, and then with the explosion of new animal forms. This is the story of how a planet dies and how it learns to live again. This journey of annihilation and rebirth raises a profound question. Which part of this saga impacted you the most? Was it the desolation of the nuclear winter, the resilience of the small survivors, or the explosive speed of life's reinvention? Share your thoughts in the comments. Even if anonymously, your perspective enriches this story. If this exploration of the forces of life and destruction resonated with you, leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss our next journeys. The history of life on Earth teaches us a fundamental lesson. Each catastrophic ending is not the end of the story. It is just the blank page where the next chapter will be written.